In the last decade, flex culture has become a thing. Especially when logomania was trending, when you would have hypebeasts queuing for 24 hours to buy a sweatshirt. But you know that even if that trend has now died out and even the hypebeast, they moved on at some point. Flex culture hasn't. It has changed shape and it continues to live on. I think you can see it in a recent example. The rise of quiet luxury and old money aesthetic trends. They're all flexing because the main focus of those aesthetic trends is to show wealth. But why is flex culture just rising in popularity? Will it ever stop? But most importantly, why are humans so obsessed with this phenomenon? Let's find out. And by the way, this video is not to shame anyone for how they choose to spend their money or how they post on social media. This video is really just about flexing and how it's impacting our society. And remember that these are just my thoughts and reflections. You are free to disagree, and for sure leave me a comment below after the video to let me know what you thought. And yes, thank you for asking about my linen shirt. It is made by myself and you are able to purchase it by clicking the link that is listed in the description box below. What is flex culture? Well, basically flex culture is when someone is showing off their wealth, their status, or their privilege. And I would say that flex culture is not really a new phenomenon because it has really been around us for centuries. If royals weren't flexing with their diamond tiaras, jewels, and just general superiority, you would see it in magazines, on TV, where old school celebrities would just flex with their, status, their glamour, their lifestyles. And the most common type of flex culture that we usually refer to is when people are dressed head to toe in logos, when they show off status symbols like cars, private jets, yachts, big mansions, lavish vacations, you name it.
I'm Kim Kardashian and welcome to my crib.
One should really note that with the rise of social media, and in particular YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, flex culture actually really began to change. At first, I remember back in the days, it used to be like fairly modest and kind of innocent in a way.
For some reason I pictured going ice skating in that. Oh my god!
Which then just evolved to like really extreme types of flexing. Influencers started to become very wealthy, and that definitely started to impact the flexing that we were seeing on social media. But that's just one side of flexing, because if you start looking around, you're gonna see that flex culture is actually everywhere. Flexing is not just loud and obnoxious and carries a logo. It can look quite different depending on the community and depending on gender, age, culture, country, etc. And I'm gonna give you some examples. We're also familiar with how the new money flexes because of their obnoxious loudness with the logos, the jets, the homes, the celebrity friends, you name it. But don't you think that old money flexes? Of course they do, but they flex in their own way because they like to impress each other with how close they are to the royals, let's say, or with their antiquities, or with their education, or just to show how intellectual they are, and so on. And then we have also flexing depending on the gender. Male flex, I would call it the aggressive flex. And I would say that characters like Dan Bilzerian made it super popular back in the days, where the aggressive flex is all about kind of showing that, oh, I'm getting so much sex, oh, I have so many women around me, oh, I have the biggest muscles, the biggest guns, and I have cash to spend. But then we also have the kind of milder version of male flex, which we often see in the cryptocurrency community, where men are just, bragging about how much money they made by showing cars, by showing cash, etc. And when we talk about women, I'd say women are not innocent at all, because the female type of flex is more like the it girl flex, the girl that is so perfect and lives a perfect life. And that includes, having the perfect looking boyfriend or husband. And then we also have the wedding flex for women, like the Sofia Richie wedding flex, where, okay, if you don't have the really lavish, classy wedding where all the right people are invited, oh gosh, you're such a loser, because you need to have super cool friends. You need to have Vogue documenting your wedding. It all has to look dreamy and picture perfect. The It Girl flex, it's about, living internationally. You should be in St. Bart's for Christmas. You should go to Saint-Tropez or Mykonos in summer, and then, Paris, London, and New York in between. Honestly, the list can go on. Now, the point is that the female flex is all about flexing like you're living the dream, where the focus is on luxury and perfection. But then there are other subcategories, like the success flex, when it's all about you being a boss babe, or you having your own business, or hashtag startup life, or I'm the CEO of this and this company. And people kind of flex with their career, with their level of success. Now, these are just some examples of the many different kinds of flexes that are out there. We have loud flexing, we have subtle flexing, we have in between, we have toxic flexing, malicious flexing, innocent flexing. I'm telling you, flex culture is everywhere. And I think the conversation is not so much about the really innocent ones, the ones that I would say everyone does from time to time, right? But I think it's more about the more narcissistic types of flexing that we're seeing, and we're seeing them grow in popularity, and it's becoming scary. As we're talking about it out loud, I think it's really easy to notice how ridiculous flex culture is. Frankly, it's kind of this really weird human behavior that, well, it's very common, because I'm really sure that everyone have flexed at some point, either innocently or not so innocently. And for sure, you have a lot of people in your life who are doing it in one way or another. Why do we as humans have this in us from the beginning? I have two words for you: insecurity and external validation. So what happens is that some people are really incapable of giving themselves self-validation. We all need that self-validation, because if you have insecurities like poor self-esteem or low self-worth, then you're not going to be able to validate yourself. So instead, you're going to rely heavily on others or external factors to validate your self-worth and value. And mind you, like, we all have an instinct to crave social validation when we are being seen, when we're being heard, and we're being valued by other people. But you know that can be done in a very healthy, normal, and balanced way. But what flex culture does instead is that it goes in an extreme direction, because it taps into that psychological human need, but it takes it to this really unhealthy direction where people start developing like an addiction to this momentary boost in confidence that happens when you flex. Adding to the fact that our Western society is really structured in a way where our culture is really putting a lot of high value on success, on achievement, on wealth, on luxury. So humans are therefore taught that, okay, our worth equals any of these achievements. And it also becomes important what other people think of us, of how we measure up to success. We need to prove our worth to the world, to ourselves, by showcasing luxury, wealth, and success and all these other accomplishments, because we think that is how we are seen as worthy in people's eyes, and maybe also in our own eyes. It's almost like only then can our own self-image feel empowered. However, in recent years, this need for external validation has really reached an unprecedented level, because what social media ultimately has created is a massive stage for people with low self-esteem to just utilize for their self-validation needs. Like, remember back in the days, whether that would be innocent or malignant flexing, that would only be seen by a chosen few. But now, social media has given people a massive stage for attention seeking, a stage that can really reach millions, if not billions of people. And this not only allows all the insecure people to get that, momentary boost of confidence, but actually it motivates them to develop an addiction or obsession to kind of always feed yourself with that momentary boost of confidence hit. And this is why this has spread like wildfire. The problem doesn't really end there, because actually there's more to this complex influence, and it really has to do with the normalization of flex culture. We have a constant stream of aspirational lifestyle content, and oftentimes this dreamy content is always, curated in the best aesthetic possible. So when you're seeing, just regular people live their lives and just everybody seems to be doing better than you. It really taps into a person's feeling of missing out. And before, you would just see your neighbor doing well, or you would see someone at work do well. But now you're seeing the entire world, and it makes you think that this is reality. So you start thinking that, okay, I must then also live a life like this. I must also drive a lavish car, have a designer handbag, go to these exotic destinations. A cycle begins of people, just like you and me, becoming more and more motivated to aspire to live lives like these people who flex. We have to do all these hyped things. So we start contributing to this flex culture because we start doing what everyone else is doing. I have seen so many cases of when flex culture just twists the minds of people. Like in 2018, we had Instagram influencer Lisette Calvero confess that she ended up with $10,000 in debt by trying to pursue the influencer dream. Calvero admits spending more than $200 a month on clothes and $1,000 on designer bags because she could not be seen with the same outfit again in a photo. Eventually, she understood her mistake and really regretted her actions, but she's just one of the many examples of how flex culture negatively influences us. We also must address how the flex culture is really contributing to our modern mentality of overconsumption. I mean, we have never been consuming this much ever. I mean, surely our levels of wealth have increased, which is why more and more people are able to afford more and more things. What flex culture does is it just motivates people to endorse materialism, and it impacts people's well-being. Because what happens is that we start becoming more competitive. Like, it becomes a drug, it becomes a game, it becomes a chase. And studies has also shown that it makes us less empathic. And let's also mention the impact it has on the environment. I mean, hello, we are killing our planet currently, and all we're doing is looking at people overconsume, overindulge. The problem is that we have this craze of looking and appearing successful online. And I need to be honest with you, because one of the reasons to why I have changed my own content direction in recent years is because that I didn't notice that I was probably doing this exact thing too with my content. I would say definitely my content has been maybe a bit superficial at times. Number 2, scrutinize yourself from top to bottom. And I wish that I could have seen what I see now more clearly before, that I could have explained things differently in the past, in my teachings, in my content. But you know that, we live and learn. And now my approach is to help women seek out a quality life and make sure that they level up in a way that works for them. And right now, you're actually able to join me for a free class that I'm hosting. It's called The Fabulous Future Formula, and it's gonna teach you how you can elevate yourself to the next level, but not necessarily the level of, being rich and famous or being this perfect it girl, right? I'm gonna give you more depth than that. So if you want to join me for this limited only class, go to fabulousfutureformula.com and sign up today. But you need to hurry up because it's only here for a limited amount of time, and then I'm gonna take it away. I hope I will see you there. So why I have made this video today really has a lot to do because of my own perspective. It really has shifted in the last years in particular, thanks to how my work experience have developed over the years. It has become more nuanced, I must say, and I feel like I've been lucky enough to have had the opportunity that I have been exposed to really an international level of people and cultures than ever before, because it has really taught me a lot of things. And I also feel like due to my own level up, I have also been on both sides of the fences. So having this experience from both sides of life, I can tell you that the glorification of wealth, of success and luxury should be redefined in my opinion. and I want to actually help redefine it. I have changed my perspective and I want to share that perspective with you. I got to experience that there is no genuine long-term happiness and joy that stems from these stereotypical places. I mean, I am myself a girl who loves the finer things in life, and I will always enjoy luxury, but I have learned that these things are best enjoyed in moderation, because as cliche as this sounds, believe me, I know, the novelty really does wear off very, very quickly, to the point that it feels kind of pointless after a while. So I also think that going back to flex culture, this is what happens when you're flexing too. The novelty wears off because you constantly need to keep flexing, to keep refilling that depot of self-validation. The self-validation is there only for a very short amount of time. Then you need to do it all over again to feel like you are successful, that you are that cool girl or that cool guy. And that's why it turns into an addiction. And that's why so many people are doing it. But I also want you to know that it's not all black and white. Like, not everyone leads the same life. Some people's lives really do involve Bentleys and Rolexes and lavish vacations. And then they just happen to, show glimpses of those lives on social media. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that that person is now flexing. You have to understand the difference between flexing and just a person living their regular life that happens to be luxurious. But they're not showing off their life because they want to get validation. They're just sharing. It is important to understand that true validation and self-worth really does come from within a person. And I do want to inspire all of you that instead of relying on other people or external factors to validate your self-worth, try to learn how to validate yourself. And that happens by identifying the root causes for any of your potential insecurities or self-doubt. And for most people, these insecurities, they originate sometime in the earlier parts of their lives. There might have been big or small traumas that have happened in your life that have left you feel either unworthy or unlovable in one way or another. And you know that by exploring these issues, you can actually begin to heal all of these past hurts, and you can start building a stronger and more resilient sense of self. And therapy has really proven to be the most effective for, I think, most people out there. I have spent around 7 years now in therapy myself to heal my insecurities, to heal my self-esteem issues. I have worked with myself in therapy because, like a decade ago, I would be quite insecure. I would definitely seek out external validation. I would indulge in materialism and things like that. But then as I have been, strengthening my self-worth and self-esteem over the years, I don't feel like, validating myself externally anymore. Like, I don't have that need naturally. And I think I want to be here and inspire you to maybe reflect on these things and maybe do the same too. Start learning to love yourself unconditionally. And then you're going to be able to strike a good balance between internal and external validation. I just want you to seek out your definition of success. I want you to really think about what that means to you. You don't have to feel, why don't I have these things? What is wrong with me? You don't have to compare yourself to absolute strangers. Now, flex culture might be here to stay, but there is one way we can kill it, and that is with self-awareness. Now, in my next video, we're gonna dissect quiet luxury and old money aesthetic trends and how potentially that is poisoning our society. I will see you in that video.